My name is Neema Moraveji, and I run a lab at Stanford called the Calming Technology Lab. So as I was watching a lot of these speakers, I realized that I'm going to be talking about something that is coming from the other side, and I'll explain what I mean. I've been coming to the Quantified Self meetings for longer than anyone I know other than Kevin and the crew over there. And I've been sitting in my ivory tower thinking about what's next. And I'm here to share that vision with you and share some of the work that we're doing at Stanford. So you all have the right to ask me and any other person in a university, hey, so you've taken a sabbatical from society. Why don't you come back and tell us what you've learned? Teach me something or tell me something I didn't know. I encourage you to do that because too many of us get away with never having to answer that question. So I'm using this opportunity to enumerate not only some of the experiments that we're doing in our lab, but to speak candidly and speak about the bigger picture as I see it. So let's imagine it's 50 years from now, and sociologists and historians and technologists are looking back at this time and they're asking, what were those people doing? What was their intention? What did they know? What did they not know? What were they ignorant about? What were they excited about? And why? So I'm going to paint a picture of what I see. Picture it. An emerging group of people decided to dedicate their lives to figuring out how to best help people engage in healthy behaviors. Let's call these people the changers. The changers got excited about how to use technology to influence, shape, and engineer people's behavior for good, using games, competition, social pressure, anything they could get their hands on. And then, lo and behold, some of them started to see that they were not so different from the people they were trying to help. So they started to self-experiment by building apps and quantifying and self-shaping their own behavior. They felt delighted when their apps gave them positive feedback, but guilty when they didn't get it. Some even developed a preoccupation with tracking, trying to behave their way into health and happiness. To quote a blogger, yes, their abs were ripped, but no, they were not smiling. And we see a lot of these. I actually don't have to talk about this because we've had such great presentations that have covered this topic, so I'm just going to kind of move past that. But we all know about the quantified self movement and beyond that, the behavior change gaming movement. Now, it was clear there was a lot to be gained by helping people with physical ailments, illnesses, or diseases by encouraging preventative, healthy lifestyles. There's no doubt. But these changers were using behavior change not just for healing an ailment, but for life performance, going above and beyond the healing of ailments, where their lives became a series of attempts to optimize behaviors and form habits. Some of these self-experimenting changers felt that what was even more important than their own behavior was how connected they felt to themselves, capital S, to their very beingness. Through all this study about behavior, they came to the realization that they were not their behaviors. These changers didn't want only healthy behaviors. They wanted to be healthy from within. They wanted technology to both help encourage healthy behaviors, but also to help them wade through the noise of living a healthy life. And just help them be themselves, be confident. Healthy behaviors, they predicted, would naturally follow from these consistent states of calm. Behavior, they found, is a measure, not a goal. So they started building technologies that were less about behavior and more about being. Quiet time, reducing multitasking, eliminating tension, focusing on strengths, having breakfast, expressing gratitude, connecting to others, breathing calmly, and being confident that downtime was well spent. During this time, they found they sometimes engage in healthy behaviors and sometimes not. The difference was that they were self-aware enough to choose and not be guilty about the effect. And that became the key, not only to influence behavior, but also to create enough calm, confident self-awareness such that they could choose their behaviors with or without the external nudging. We call those technologies calming technologies. And they complement persuasive technologies by removing the layers of inner distraction that keep us from engaging in the behaviors that we desire so much. And this lab started as an offshoot of B.J. Fogg's lab, the Persuasive Technology Lab. I taught a class with him this past spring on creating calming behaviors. And it was at his encouragement that I create this lab. So I became the first Ph.D. student at Stanford to ever start their own lab. And the response has been huge at the campus and outside. So what's crucially different about what we do is that we basically assume, maybe we take an extreme naive stance, I would even call it, to assume that people will act in a healthy manner if only they were less stressed and more calm. We call this an inside-out approach to behavior change, and we use it to complement the outside-in. It's from do your health to be your health. The truth is that it's neither, it's everything. It just need a little bit of focus on this approach. So I created this 2D space to describe what's going on here. At the top of the y-axis, you'll see a lot of the outside-in work. So these are kind of what we know about behavior change and nudging, all the kind of things that we're used to. And then on the x-axis, you can see the scale at which these technologies work. You know, you have coaching over there on the individual side. It's very one-on-one. And it does focus on a lot. It can. I mean, these things they should be big bubbles, but I didn't want to get too caught up in exactly where they go. But you just kind of get a taste of where these technologies are trying to focus. Are they kind of outside in? Are they inside out? And when you see, it's more sparse on the inside out, as you would expect. It's a little bit of a more tricky and messy endeavor, and that was perfect for research. So we've known about the power of self-efficacy for years, but we've yet to realize how technology can help people possess it, as if it's something out there that we need to put in here. There's so many techniques and theories out there for how to bring a person from motivation to habits. And so our lab focuses exclusively on techniques for creating the calm necessary to discover that self-efficacy that is always within us. I don't know how much I need to convince you how bad chronic stress is, but you know, you may be somebody that thinks you don't really face it until you start to take a walk in the forest, or just take a walk anywhere, actually, you know, and just stop. Then you might start to notice the kind of constant, chronic, mild stress that we've just become accustomed to, and we think that is life. That's how life goes. We want to nail that. We want to, thank you, we want to address that. And it's not just bad for your body, but it's bad for your brain on a neurological level, at a cognitive level. And so I ask you, how can we expect people to make the right decisions when their memory is impaired from stress, when they go split second to split second thinking about all the things they have to do and all the self-doubt that they face when they're not thinking about what they have to do. So we draw upon the fields of psychophysiology, stress reduction, biofeedback, mindfulness, social cognitive theory, clinical psychology, mind-body connection, you know, neuroscience, what you can imagine, the whole grab bag. Regardless of what the next breakthrough is, and this is crucial, regardless of what the next breakthrough is, we feel confident knowing that if we can help people maintain a calm state of mind and body, it will always be beneficial, no matter what. So we use cutting-edge design techniques to implement the most ancient of goals, which is to be. So one of the things we created was this model of calming technology. So I was asked to talk about how people can create these technologies, so this is what we created. This is one of the things we created, but one is there has to be an understanding of what stress is, and I encourage you to go and look at some of the literature on what's, well, I don't encourage you to look at literature, but I encourage you to talk to me after or read one of our papers about this, because it's kind of surprising what stress actually is, and it's been studied for decades now. And that includes what is a stressor, what are the characteristics of a stressor, and what are the body's response. So things that are unpredictable, things that are a threat to the self-identity. We talked about ego threat earlier. That was very much in line with this. So on and so forth. So then there is an understanding of calming mechanisms. What is calming? Well, there's two general approaches to calming. One is to remove a stressor, and the other is to introduce a calmer. So the word stressor was invented about 40 years ago, or 50 years ago, and we're starting to use this word calmer. We didn't have the word calmer. We have stressor, we don't have calmer. So it's kind of like, okay, well, let's start focusing on that. Let's start talking about the characteristics of calmers and how they work. So there's a lot of different practices that we're drawing upon in that respect. And then, of course, just kind of standard user-centered design practices that we know and love. And it's the combination and the intersection of these three elements that create and constitute calming technologies. And there's a bunch of more detail here that that you can go into. It's available at this URL just for a quick reference, bit.ly/model of calm. It's case sensitive. So note that we use the word calm and not relaxed. A lot of times when I give this talk, people think, well, I can't perform if I'm like that. We don't mean relaxed, we mean calm. Calm is a word we use for restful alertness. We don't have the right vocabulary in our language to describe this optimal state. And if I called it flow technologies, it wouldn't really resonate either. So we call them calming technologies. But rest assured, we mean a state in which you can perform sustainably, where productivity is not about volume, but about insight, and about being effective. So you can be calm throughout your day. Rest assured, you can be calm throughout your day and still get what you need to get done. That's a major barrier for people. We have built up so much a belief that we can't. So just rest assured about that. We need to do some messaging work around that. So I'm gonna show you some of our work in our lab. So this is Kudo Share. So what we did is we had students in our lab experiment with different ways of creating calm in the lives of their colleagues. Kudo Share was an experiment in using Facebook to express gratitude to their friends. And what was interesting about it was that they kept it pretty loose, and they created a, let's see if there's a, okay, well, they created a kind of template. So you put thanks, and you tag the person, and you put what it was about. And it would bring that person into the gratitude, the Kudo Share, the gratitude kind of practice, and so on and so forth. So that was an example. Another example was the Martin 5 poll. The way this worked is that students identified the stress that they experienced walking right out of a lecture and kind of feeling, oh my God, like I have to remember all that, what do I have to do? And it's just that the mind started kind of going, and they said they would send an SMS directly to students at that moment, and it would say, hey everybody, in 5 words, text me your most interesting insight from today's lecture. And you would have to just stop, think about it, 5 words, text it back, you were done. You did an action to consolidate your learning, you put it aside. A couple hours later, you received a text that said, here are 5 different insights from your peers for the same class. So now I've seen 5 different insights from my peers, and I vote on the one I like the best. By the end of the day, I see the winning insight. So it was a very kind of elegant way to address the stress while creating a kind of studying. Basically, you're studying. Another text messaging prototype sent this text to students in the morning when they got up to set a positive intention for the day and to look forward to something. It's a prototype called Look Forward. It said, fill in the Mad Lib. Today I look forward to food dish at place with person. Just setting a positive intention rather than what he was experiencing with interviewing his peers, kind of, oh, the things I have to do today. So it was like, hey, just a shift of intention on how to do that. Thank you. Another Facebook-based prototype tried to use this social messaging platform to get people to take the stress out of eating breakfast every day. So it was like making it fun, taking a photo of it, and really just having fun with it. But again, with this eye on the stress, the resulting stress, not actually the behavior of necessarily eating it every day. So the goal wasn't the behavior. The goal was not having stress when you approach the whole concept of eating breakfast consistently. And just having that intention creates a different design. This was I don't have the accurate this was kind of a prototype of the prototype. He didn't want to, he created an anonymized version, but this was a way for people to send each other ways of implementing self-compassion. So it was like, hey, here's an idea, and then you'd receive an idea from somebody else, and you'd get novel ideas to take care and nurture yourself throughout the week. As a Stanford student, you think these students are like hell-bent on productivity, and they are, but they really get wellness. They really get elegant productivity, not just stressful productivity. Okay, so one of our research projects, this is the one that I work on in my dissertation work at Stanford, is called Breath Aware. And so I wanted to show you how it works. This is your desktop on your Mac, and just zoomed in a little bit. On the top right there, you see it says, is there a laser pointer on this? Does anyone know? Okay, that's fine. So it says 0 points, and it gives you 18.3 breaths per minute, and it has a percentage there. So the computer is monitoring how you're breathing while you use the computer. And on the bottom right, it says very cool, 5.8 minutes of calm. So the goal of this prototype is to encourage people to breathe calmly while they're at their computer working. Here it is. Again, it says on the bottom, great job, you just had a moment of Zen for 13.3 minutes, maintaining a breath rate that is congruent with their resting breath rate. Here on the top, you can see it says 105 points. So as they breathe calmly while they're working, they're accruing these points. It can never go down, it's always up. It's a constant positive encouragement, which is kind of in line with the whole stress thing. And then they can see their breath rate, and they can hit a button and see, here's your breath rate at its highest today, and here's the screen at that time, and here it was at its lowest, and look what you were doing at that time as well. So you can kind of get a sense of when I'm stressed and when I'm not. And then you get some milestone achievements by getting an inspiring picture if you hit a certain milestone of calmness in your day. Here's a person writing an email, and it says, watch your breath rate, it's at 17.2 as you're composing this email. It's like, whoa. Right? And then it feeds into a social website we call Breathcast that we're starting to experiment with the social here. Another thing we did is we created these calming technology design cards where technologists can start to think about how they can create calming technologies or calming elements in their existing technologies, which may be word processors, chatting, applications or whatever. I can send you a PDF of these. Just send me an email or a tweet us. It's Calming Tech, and we'll send you a PDF of these. Okay, so I'm just wrapping up, but I just wanted to close with this message. We all know what it's like to be on a plane landing and to watch everybody race to check their messages as soon as it lands. They're excited to be connected back to the grid and to see what they missed. Imagine if we channeled that enthusiasm to connect to ourselves and to our inner grid. Our technologies can help take us there. I wanted to thank you for your time. I know it's precious. I also wanted to leave you with this note that we are holding the first Calming Technology Design Symposium at Stanford on Friday, December 9th. Pre-registration is available and to save your seat, and would love to hear any questions or comments that you might have. Thank you so much.
Great. So we'll open it up to questions for Neema, Michael, or Margie, and then we'll take a break. So, got a question there. We have a mic.
I just want to say how much I agree with what you're saying. Having been an executive now for about 15 years, I think that whatever the opposite calm is, fear or anxiety, I think is the biggest detractor for creativity and productivity at work. And the same goes for personal health behaviors. So I'm very interested in watching what you're doing.
I had a question also for Neema. Am I saying that right? So could you I'm much more familiar with the science and the practice of mindfulness, as I'm sure you're very, very aware of. How does that, it sounded very familiar, what you're describing, to what I have known as mindfulness. Could you describe the similarities or differences? Or?
Well, we consciously try to... Yeah. Okay, thank you. Hello? Yeah. Thank you for the question. I wouldn't say we're avoiding mindfulness, but there's so much attention paid towards mindfulness and what that means and all the kind of connotation that goes along with it that we're kind of actively trying to address the simple things that one can do, like spend more time outside or take a walk or just think about something positive in a day. So certainly some of the things that we're thinking about relate to mindfulness, but we don't want to kind of pigeonhole ourselves because it alienates a lot of people, and it makes people feel often that they have to stop what they're doing and engage in a practice that has these roots and this kind of whole stigma to it potentially. Although those who know it know that there isn't, but it's kind of, we don't want to involve ourselves in that conversation. So that's why we use the word calm. People understand that word. It's a very simple and approachable state to be in. Whereas mindfulness, am I mindful? Am I not? So sometimes people were. Yeah, it sounds like you have a response.
So I hear you saying that it's more, you guys, and I understand that, have selected different language to describe the same phenomenon, basically, right?
Well, it's not about the same phenomenon. I mean, I would say, mindfulness, if I was to describe the overarching goal, is self-awareness. So in that sense, what we're doing is leading people towards self-awareness, but the first step towards that is quieting their minds down to a point where they even notice that self-awareness is important, that they notice what self-awareness feels like and is like. So, it's kind of like it's on the table. We don't have a strict kind of we're doing this or we're doing this yet. Sorry, I couldn't give a more precise answer, but I think it resonates. We use sensors. Yeah, we use different kinds of sensors, but that's one of them. You can sense the breath in a lot of different ways, through the heart rate, visually, through computer vision. So we're not the sensor experts, but we're the design experts. So that's what we do. Yeah.
I just wanted to make one quick comment. I'm fascinated by the fact that the people who come from technology backgrounds are more interested in non-technology approaches, and the people who come from the non-technology backgrounds are more interested in technology approaches to solve their problems. So very, very interesting dynamic going on in the room. Anyway, thank you very much. Very interesting.